And this election and the values its results will further, they matter. And our part, every one of our parts matters. I imagine many of you are relieved and joyful today. Many in our UU movement would say that yesterday, this country took a step forward in living into the values that we as Unitarian Universalists hold dear, or at least a step away from a precipice. I know that I feel like a weight is off my shoulders. As I have noted before, the attacks from the current administration on democracy, the attacks on people of color, on the rights of trans and queer people, immigrants, and the attacks on truth itself. It is a deep relief to me personally that these attacks from this leader will soon no longer be front and center. There is reason to be grateful. And it's not over yet. In part because we don't know what the next few months will hold. And also because this week, the United States took its temperature, and frankly, it became clear again that there is work to do. If the vote was in part a referendum on how this country's people feel about racism, nationalism, homophobia, science, health, the value of democracy, or the value of protecting the earth, then we have work to do. Nearly half the population voted for, or at least were blind or desensitized to the impact of the current administration on those things. Blind or desensitized to the devastating impact the words and actions of the current president have had on so many people. As my colleague Kate Lohr notes, we are chipping away at a mountain right now, not a boulder. We are trying to pull down age-old structures that were explicitly created to oppress and divide and control people. And we are divided. Coming together, changing structures, creating a system that works for everyone, it's a long haul proposition with forward movement and expect setbacks. So I offer you today some wisdom from a pioneer in long haul thinking and action. John Lewis, who died just this past August, was a trusted compatriot of Dr. King, a backbone leader in the civil rights movement, and a 17-term congressman who weathered storm after storm. He shares this story from his own upbringing in the introduction to his memoir. From a time when he was a child, about 15 of us children were outside my Aunt Saniva's house playing in her dirt yard, he writes. The sky began clouding over. The wind started picking up, lightning flashed off in the distance, and suddenly I wasn't thinking about playing anymore. I was terrified. Aunt Saniva was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. The house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, and the house was starting to shake. We were scared. Even Aunt Seneva was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend, and then a corner of the room started lifting up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. The storm was actually pulling the house toward the sky with us inside it. That was when Aunt Seneva told us to clasp hands. Line up and hold hands, she said. We did as we were told. Then she had us walk as a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house, we walked, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction as another end of the house began to lift. And so it went, back and forth. 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. More than half a century has passed since that day, he writes, and it has struck me more than once over those many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s, at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come and we would have to do it all over again. And we did. And we still do. All of us. You and I. Children, holding hands, walking with the wind. The future is always full of unknowns. But we have our values. We have a vision. We may not know exactly how or when we will get there, but we know we will. I was talking with a new friend earlier this week. It was at the heights of uncertainty and tension. She mentioned just feeling discouraged about humanity. Me too, I thought. And then she went on talking about riots and fires. And I was like, riots and fires? Are riots and fires happening right now? No, she said, no. She was thinking about the riots and fires, those people protesting over George Floyd, setting fire to things. I just don't understand what's wrong with people, she said. And in that moment, I realized we were coming from entirely different frames of reference. While I agree that setting fires and destroying things is bad, my new friend seemed to be equating riots with protests and destruction with protests. I did say something about leaders aggravating divisions and creating conditions for violence, but my comments didn't seem to land. And I realized with this new friend that our news sources may well be different, and the people we talk to are probably different. And I have no simple formula for bridging that kind of gap in the narratives we are each seeing and hearing. No simple formula for bridging or healing the cracks we see in this country. I was reflecting on all of this when I heard our UUA president, Susan Frederick Gray, tell a story at a post-election vigil this past Thursday night. I want to share that story with you this morning, and through the amazingness of technology, we can hear Susan tell it herself.
Friends, dear ones, fellow Unitarian Universalists, it's so good to be with you tonight. I am excited to share with you a story, and it's one of my favorites. You may have, if you've known me a long time, you may have heard me share it before. It's an old Jewish folk tale from the 1700s told by Jacob Ben Wolfkrantz. And I've heard the story told different ways, so this is the way I know it best. Like a lot of stories, they sometimes change in the telling and passing on. The story begins in a town with the townspeople. And these townspeople have a prized possession in their town. It is a beautiful, stunning, perfect diamond. And the townspeople are so proud of this treasure that they keep it on display. They keep the diamond on display at the center of town so that everyone can enjoy it. And people often come from far and wide to enjoy and look upon this amazing jewel. But one day, the townspeople wake up, and when the earliest risers go to the center of town, they're shocked and unsettled to discover that their diamond has a deep crack running along its length. They have no idea how the diamond cracked. They are heartbroken and shocked. The townspeople gather around. They look for jewelers in the town. They search out craftspeople from all around, stonecutters, anyone, to see if someone might be able to fix their beautiful diamond. But everyone who comes and inspects it says that the crack is too deep, that it is too broken, and that to even try to fix it would risk it breaking into multiple pieces. But then one day, a stranger comes to their town. And the stranger walks into the center of town and is looking at the diamond. And they say, "I can fix this." And the townspeople hear this and begin to gather. And the stranger says, "I am a stonecutter and I know how to fix this diamond. I'll have to take it with me back to my shop. It'll probably take me 2 weeks to fix it, but I promise I will return with it." Well, the townspeople are wary. After all, this is a stranger. But their hope, their desire to have their prized possession back, fixed, outweighs their fear. And so they give the diamond to the stranger. Exactly 14 days later, this stranger returns to the town. And they come to the center of town and they're carrying the bag that they took the diamond with them. And they open it up and they pull out the diamond and they give it to one of the elders in the town. And the elder looks upon the diamond and is amazed. The stonecutter had not polished the crack away. Rather, they had carved a beautiful rose into the face of the diamond, using the crack as part of the rose's stem. The elder holds up the diamond to the townspeople. And he says to the stonecutter, "You have taken something that was cracked and broken and made it even more beautiful than it was before." And they pass the diamond around throughout the members of the town, all moved by the beauty of the rose and the diamond. I love this story because it reminds us that brokenness is not the end of the story. And in fact, we know that the diamond was never perfect, maybe in the eyes of the town people, but we know it was never perfect. But the brokenness is not the end of the story. And the gift that the stranger brings to the townspeople is the ability to see the possibility of the rose in the brokenness. So easy to always see what is broken, what is lost, and to focus there, to focus our attention there. It's even possible to be so consumed with that brokenness that we give up any sense of what can be, of what's possible. Feel that we should just take care of ourselves. The world is so broken, the world is so unjust, the situation is so wrong that we need to just withdraw, take care of ourselves, assume that all around us is broken, is ugly. Of what this stranger sees, and I believe that what a practice of our faith as Unitarian Universalists is about always being rooted in the beauty that is present in life, that is present in each and every one of us. To see the rose that is possible, and to always be rooted in working to bring that beauty forward. To keep our attention and our awareness open to the beauty, to the joy, to the love of life, to the compassion and goodness that is possible in ourselves. And to till that soil, to do that work, to bring forth the joy, to bring forth the rose from the brokenness.
Amen. May the brokenness not be the end of the story. May we see the stem of a rose in the cracks. Even if we can't fix what's broken, can we find or create beauty in and around us with any of the people we're connected to? When I first saw the video we're about to watch of the hymn, We Would Be One, I kept thinking about the life story and history of each person singing, how each is unique and beautiful, and how their voices blend in this transcendent harmony. I end with a reading by Julia Myers called "The Old Threads Are Unraveling." The old threads are unraveling. Get your needles ready. We are stitching a new quilt of humanity. Bring your old t-shirts, worn out jeans, scarves, antique gowns, aprons, old pockets of plenty who have held Earth's treasures, stones, feathers, leaves, love notes on paper. Each stitch, a mindful meditation. Each piece of material, a story. The more color, the better, so call in the tribes. Threads of browns, whites, reds, oranges, women from all nations, start stitching. Let's recycle the hate, the abuse, the fear, the judgment, turn it over, wash it clean, wring it out dry. It's a revolution of recycled wares. Threads of greens, blues, purples, colorful threads of peace, kindness, respect, compassion are stitched from one continent to the next, over forests, oceans, mountains. The work is hard. Your fingers may bleed. But each cloth stitched together brings together a community, a world, our future world, under one colorful quilt, a new quilt of humanity. And we end with a closing song by Zoe Toby called "Small Sweet Step."
When you wake and feel the day's already gone, the sun is rising but your faith is going down, and you're losing hope a change gonna come. You gotta tune your station to a higher sound. When the way seems blockaded and you just don't have the might, give some praise that you're frustrated. No, you ain't wrong, you're on the edge of something right. Take a small, sweet step, give it all you got. Just a small, sweet step, moving forward. You don't know what's next, and nevertheless, take a small, sweet step, moving forward. When you're riding and the fog has got you blind, remember your sky that holds the clouds. Born with a hero's heart and a monkey mind, on the planet of commitment, there is no doubt. So when the way seems blockaded and you just don't have the might, give some praise that you're frustrated. No, you ain't wrong, you're on the edge of something right. Take a small, sweet step, give it all you got. Just a small, sweet step, moving forward. You don't know what's next, and nevertheless, take a small, sweet step, moving forward. And you know you got to be crazy to look at the game and think you're okay. You're in the very last minute, the very last play. Scoreboard's not on your side. But aside, your heart is a beat. It's a song on your tongue and the dance on your feet. You came here to bring to the game what you got. Win or lose ain't never the prize. You got to take a small, sweet step. Come give it all you got. Just a small, sweet step. Moving forward. Keep on moving forward. You don't know what's next. And nevertheless, take a small, sweet step. Moving forward. Come on, keep it moving. Take a small, sweet step. Give it all you got. Just a small, sweet step. Moving forward. You don't know what's next. And nevertheless, take a small, sweet step. Moving forward. Just take a step. Keep moving forward. Just take a step. Keep moving forward. Just take a step. Keep moving forward. Just take a
Our closing words: when the lights of the polling places are switched off, when the banners from the rallies come down, when the organizers and poll workers are back home and lawyers archive their casework, then the work of democracy begins to heal the nation, contain this pandemic, provide for the destitute, release the children prisoners, call each other neighbor and countrymen, bring peace among the people, to take our next small, sweet step. Amen. Let us join in Carry the Flame. Amen.